Rob Chander, founder and CEO and uber creative guy when it comes to Veepod. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. First of all, thank you for inviting the Grammatik team down to Veepod here in Soho today to have a look around. We're very privileged to have a little bit of a look behind the scenes. Can you just tell me, first of all, what's the big idea? What's it for? Who's it for?
That's a great question. First of all, thanks for coming. And thanks for sorting out some of the technical challenges we had as well, which is great.
Always adding value.
Adding value wherever you go. Welcome to Veepod. So Veepod, what is Veepod? I suppose I could probably start with. So Veepod's a all-in-one digital video podcast solution studio, which is a bit of a mouthful. All I need is a really smart marketing PR company to come up with something a little bit.
Those, yeah.
But I don't know anyone. I don't know any of them.
We can talk later.
Okay. Which is a bit of a mouthful. But effectively what it is basically helps, I think it really helps podcasts, which have been around for an awful long time, have now rapidly moved from an audio-only experience into something that's really, really very, very video-centric. As I think, we were talking early on, there's a huge uplift in people watching it at home on their TVs through the YouTube channel as well, which is amazing. But there's sort of some, I guess, quality maybe or production level challenges that brands are having, as well as the podcast studio, certainly the top tier and the second tier of those, where they're getting a lot of viewerships, but you don't want to lose those viewerships once people start watching it at their tellies at home, right? So it sort of answers that question that you could now create an environment, a digital studio that can be branded. It can be, it can be aligned to the theme of a particular episode of a podcast, or it could be the general theme of the entire podcast. And whether that's space travel, science, history, true crime, sport, anything like that, we're using technology in order to be able to create those environments using CGI, basically, which means that it breaks out of the standard. Putting a GoPro camera into an audio podcast studio and putting the record buttons, it creates an immersive environment, basically.
Right, so it's like podcasts on steroids, a little bit.
Yeah.
Can we say that?
We can say that.
So, just talking about podcasts more generally, we do have a proliferation of them, and more brands and businesses are turning on to creating podcasts.
Right.
In the industry that we work in, which is B2B technology, we're finding a lot of our clients coming to understand that it's a nurture sell, and it's
right.
Rather than just doing straight up advertising. Podcasts for content marketing are really, really effective. Do you think that's something across the board, both for B2B businesses, but also B2C as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think, content has been on this sort of, I think, had been the tip of the marketing, the CMOs, levers for a very long time now.
Yeah.
But it's been really difficult to produce. It's quite expensive, right? And it can become across as, when it's overproduced, it almost comes across as inauthentic.
Yep.
And it's also just the volume isn't there, right? And the speed that we all move now, the muscle memory we have of instant gratification about flicking left, right, up or down, anything like that, right? So you have to lean into what people and the behaviors that people are doing. And everyone's after authentic content. There is a proliferation of inauthentic stuff, which certainly from a B2B perspective, but I think in a sort of a consumer base with the proliferation of AI or just tools that can rapidly make sort of content. So you really want some efficiencies while still being authentic for anything, So that's whether or not you're talking about beauty products because you're very passionate about it, or you are a reseller for a particular product, right? People are still after authenticity because people sell or people buy people. They don't necessarily, buy a product, and they want to know that they can trust people.
Yeah.
And long form content really brings that out of people. Having a chat, conversation, in a social environment. the really interesting thing about podcasts is that you just sort of, after a few minutes, you sort of settle into a conversation rather than it being an interview.
Yeah, of course.
As well, because there's nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
You sort of end up going down a route where you might sort of end up talking about this or that or what you did at the weekend.
Yeah.
And that can come across as, as a lot more authentic. And that's gold dust for any CMO as well. But it's really, really expensive, and there's a risk attached to it as well. That's one of the, one of the things that I guess in the last 20 or 30 years, this proliferation of scripts and making sure you don't say the wrong thing, and media training. So you draw it round to the point you want to make rather than the conversation.
Yeah.
Podcasts aren't around.
Yeah, of course.
Being
a bit more natural.
Right. So you're not being grilled by Paxman in a podcast, right?
Yeah.
So I think this kind of long form content just leans into that authenticity, but volume of content that any CMO would like, whether they're B2C or B2B, right? As long as it's authentic, as long as you're talking to people who are really interested about, the thing you're trying to sell.
Sure.
And that could be, whether that's medical grade, devices, or whether it's hair products or anything, as long as you're passionate about it, that kind of thing comes across.
Yeah.
And then you've got the ability then to create just huge amounts of content from that as well, right? You can cut them up and that can fill into your social streams.
Of course, yeah.
And you can find set
or whatever,
right?
Case studies,
absolutely,
all that kind of stuff from a B2B perspective anyway.
Absolutely. And I think, from a C-level perspective, it's great because you can then have C-level, your C-suite, your CMOs, your CTOs, your CEOs are able to get that authenticity for what they're passionate about as well. So it's a great device for them to talk about their passions, which might be something to do with mentoring, or it might not be business related, but it might be something financial or anything like that.
I think that was what I was saying earlier about it's more of a nurture sell, and you don't want to be a hard sell all the time. And you can just showcase your thinking in an area and add value. And from a business point of view, thought leadership is really quite important. When it comes to showcasing your sort of business or person that you can trust. In the space that you work in. So Rob, so it's early days for Veepod. If there's a brand or an agency or a content creator out there who wants to come and check it out here in Soho, who do they contact, or how do they book a demo?
Super easy. So they'll all want to come, obviously.
Of course.
Once they see this, right? These two enigmatic guys waffling on about stuff. Easy. They just go to Veepod. That's VEE pod, not VP pod. So it's VEEpod.studio.
Yep.
And just book a slot to come and do a demo.